My wife, she went to business school. She went to an MBA program, and one of the stories she told me early on, she loved this entrepreneurial class that she was in, and the professor had a motto, and it was "fail fast." And I have adapted that as a mantra more and more because as an entrepreneur, you fail all the time, and so I like to call it testing now.
Welcome to the Building to Scale podcast, where we bring real entrepreneur stories that showcase the challenges and successes in building and scaling an entrepreneurial business. Our host, Jeff Chastain, is a business transformation coach with Admentis, where he coaches business leaders and their teams with a proven set of principles and tools, helping them gain clarity in and get more of what they want from their business. Make sure to stick around until the end of the show, and we will reveal how you can become our next guest.
Hello, everybody. Jeff Chastain here again with the Building to Scale podcast, where I get the opportunity really to speak with entrepreneurial business leaders, thought leaders, influencers here, really hearing their stories of both challenges and successes as they've grown and scaled their businesses to where it is today. So today's guest with me here is Tom Howell with Fancy Awesome. And I'll start off, Tom, by saying welcome to the show. And thanks for having on there. So Fancy Awesome, there's got to be a bit of a story here behind that name and what's going on there. So tell us a little bit about the company and your role going on today.
Yeah, actually, it's funny. So I'm the CEO. Fancy Awesome came from a previous partnership that I had, actually. So when I started the business out like 9 years ago, it was called BizWiggle, as an equally silly name.
Okay.
But yeah, I found that you can put any word and follow it with wiggle, and you can buy the URL. So I thought, well, it could be BizWiggle or some other thing. Anyway, so I partnered with some guys maybe 5-6 years ago, where they owned a software development shop. And I had the ad agency. We thought that it made sense to kind of link up. And what ultimately ended up happening is I ended up buying out the software development business, and so now I'm the full owner of it again. And part of that transition, I got the Fancy Awesome name and the brand. So I can't take credit for the name is the point of all the story. So my previous partner, a guy named Spence Wetchin, really bright guy, he came up with the name in his software company. But because there was one developer that would kind of sit on a bouncy ball and kind of bounce on the bouncy ball all day long while he was programming. And he was, he'd have his vape pen, and he was kind of like a stoner kid.
Yeah.
And anytime anything would happen, he would turn and he'd go, "Whoa, that's Fancy Awesome, dude." And so after hearing this 4 or 5 times, Spence went to Google and typed it in, or into GoDaddy and typed it in, and saw that it was available. And so he bought it, and then they rebranded shortly after that because it's such a strong name. So
nice. Yeah. It's always interesting stories where those kind of pop out that, just random stuff. It's like, okay, we'll try it. It works.
Right.
So tell us a little bit more about the company right now and your role in the company.
So as I mentioned, I'm the CEO of it. We have about 10 W-2 employees, full-time employees, and then we have another 10 essentially full-time contractors. So we're about 20 staff total. We started off primarily as a digital advertising agency. We're very early to the idea that online marketing is as much a data game as it is a traditional marketing game. And so what we found is when we started taking over people's accounts initially, was there was all this opportunity to optimize ad accounts if you had a statistical or mathematics background. And so and it was really interesting because we started taking over more and more accounts and kept seeing that there were these issues with the way people would structure them. And if you just looked at it more with a scientific approach, you could get a lot more oomph out of the accounts, right? So that's how the business started out. We started out exclusively as a Google advertising agency. We just did Google PPC. Since then, it's evolved quite a bit. We started off focusing on the lead generation vertical, working with a lot of small businesses, a lot of doctors' offices, dental offices, rental places, like those kind of, wedding type businesses, those kind of small businesses, lawyers, and and we kind of grew from there. And about 6 years ago, we started seeing that the value we could provide to e-commerce companies was even more significant than what we could provide to the average business. And also, our strategies and methods really seem to be able to help e-commerce companies grow a lot faster. It's just a different type of business. You're doing this kind of the work you do today has benefit, further down, especially if you're dealing with consumable products. And so the e-commerce businesses just lend more to scaling than traditional businesses. So we thought that was a good niche, and I made the decision to switch more exclusively to e-commerce. Around that time, we were looking very heavily into Amazon. We had launched a side business, which was an Amazon third-party seller. So we were one of those stores on Amazon that resells products for companies. We grew that extremely fast. We spent 6 months before we sold anything. We spent 6 months developing software and tools and figuring out the Amazon system and the APIs, and then also wrote some algorithms to identify products that had a good margin baked into them. And we were able to launch this extremely fast growing Amazon selling business. The interesting thing about that is around that time, Amazon, if anybody's familiar with Amazon, will probably remember brand gating. So if you're a reseller on Amazon changed the rules quite a bit and made it so companies could block you from selling their products on the platform. So brand A could say, hey, I no longer want you selling on the platform. So what happened was we got stuck with $500,000 worth of inventory. We ended up being able to sell it through other channels, but ultimately we looked at that and we said, well, there's still opportunity here. And as you can tell, there's tons of third-party sellers. But for us, we had already been successful at building an agency and building a service business. So we thought, why don't we take all this that we learned and all this experience that we have and all this software that we wrote, and why don't we turn this into a managed service offering? So that led to us launching an Amazon practice. And the business has added that, as well as adding additional ancillary services, Facebook ad management, Bing ad management, email marketing, web development, landing page development. We're very, very heavily invested into the Shopify platform as an agency, and that's where a lot of our growth is coming from those other services, SEO as well too. Yeah, but that's who we are. It's long-winded there, but
yeah, no worries. So take us back a little bit historical wise into your background. Were you the consummate programmer at early ages, or what? How did you get into entrepreneurial side to start running a business?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I wasn't the consummate programmer then, and I still am not. I started off really early on with this entrepreneurial bug. My father was a small business owner. We had a little landscaping business growing up, and I got a computer and a printer and a scanner, and I started making menus and business cards for restaurants and little businesses in my town growing up. And then I went to college, and kind of that all went to the wayside. And but I always had this like drive where I knew I wanted to start a business. I just didn't know how or what. And I got out of college, and I actually, I spent a good deal of time bartending. I worked at a casino outside of Chicago. Worked my way up from bartending into dealing blackjack, and then only dealt for a very, very short amount of time, and then ended up getting an opportunity working for a PR agency through a personal contact in Miami. And I decided that, well, I had a college degree. I had a literature degree that was not being used. I was a good writer. And so I had this in college, I had this idea that I was going to go to law school. So I was like, well, I should do liberal arts. And yeah, I don't know why, considering I was really interested in business, but that's kind of how it happened.
Yeah.
And that took me to Florida, where I worked for a small PR agency, and then was bounced around, went to another PR agency, and then worked in house for a large book publisher, doing their PR internally. And at that point, I really was like, well, I don't really like PR. I think I like marketing. I think there's some other interesting things out there. And the company I was working for had a very large Google advertising spend. And so I got to sit in on those meetings with the agency that was managing. And I thought, well, I think I could do this. That's where it grew out of.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So looking at obviously some of the things you were talking about the changes in the Amazon store and the changes in your business, why do you think business owners typically tend to struggle with those kind of pivot changes, or with, obviously right now we're dealing in the midst of a pandemic, turn this recording, so there's been lots of business changes, but when you're seeing that, obviously like you were talking about having the retail kind of storefront through Amazon and have them change the rules on you, what's the thought process that goes through your mind right there as a business leader to say, okay, what do we do now? Something outside of my control basically has impacted us. What do we do now from a business standpoint?
Well, the first day you panic and you say the sky is falling. But once you get your grounding, you have two decisions to make. You can either, double down and keep going, or you can look at it objectively, or go and one of the things, I do a lot is ask other people that I respect, hey, this is the problem, and what should we do? And a lot of people, pointed me in the direction that said, well, if you're exposed to this much risk, and Amazon or any business that you're associated to or build your business around can make such drastic changes and affect your business so much, maybe that's not the business you want to be in. So we took a hard look at it. And we said, look, we've developed a lot of software. We have a lot invested in this. We've spent a lot of time learning about this. There's got to be something here. And so that's what led to the pivot in that specific circumstance. My wife, she went to business school. She went to an MBA program. And one of the stories she told me early on, she loved this entrepreneurial class that she was in. And the professor had a motto, and it was fail fast. And I have adapted that as a mantra more and more, because as an entrepreneur, you fail all the time. And so I like to call it testing now.
Here you go. Put a positive light on it. Yep.
Yeah. So, the beauty of being a business like we are, where we're like a little agency, we have a lot of very, very talented people. I have, world-class programmers, incredibly talented designers and UX people. We can launch little online businesses very quickly. We can set up the website, we can set up the advertising, we know how to do the messaging. We can do all of these pieces very fast. And same thing on the software development side. We have very talented developers here, so we can start and try to build little MVPs of software, whether that's within a platform like Amazon or just a standalone SaaS-y type product. And so what we try to do is we now, our philosophy is to let's build something, let's give it a little bit of test and see if there's something there. And if there's something there, it might make more sense to dig in, right?
Yeah, I love that, because a lot of times in working with businesses, I'll be asked, hey, do you work with or do you coach startup agencies? And typically I'll steer away from that simply because I look at the fact of, okay, startup agency doesn't need to spend a lot of money building a infrastructure, building out operations, all that kind of stuff before they've proved that, do we actually have a product? Does it have legs? Do we have this idea that we've got? Is somebody else willing to pay for that? So I love the idea with that, especially in those early startup days of saying, okay, fail fast, try it, prove out just a little bit first, kind of a thing. But even still, I think that applies, like you're saying, even in a established business, that, hey, we're going to go try a new product. We're going to go try a new market. Don't necessarily invest a huge amount until you go prove that, okay, there's some validity here. There's some legs here before we go invest a huge amount into that.
Right. I have a little anecdote that's kind of interesting.
Okay.
So I'm really active in being from Austin. I'm really active in the Austin business community, and Austin, I've never seen anything like it, but Austin, even if you're not in Austin, you should go and try to find like Austin Digital Jobs and Austin freelance groups, these Facebook groups, those are the names of the groups. And they are, and Austin startups, they're some of the most incredible networking groups out there. And so everybody's willing to mentor other people and to answer questions and everything. So any of your people that are looking to do any sort of startup, those are great resources. But in those groups, I get hit up occasionally, or I volunteer when somebody asks about, how to get it from 0 to 1, or how to get a business started, or what are the things I should, worry about. And so I had a call with a gentleman about a month ago who was starting, a business, and he was pre-revenue, which is, a really nice way of saying they don't have investment. And, he was in a fairly commoditized space. And he had assembled what seemed to be a really strong team of people. So this guy was very much like a Pied Piper kind of guy. Like he got everybody excited. And then he made two mistakes or at least things that I thought were mistakes. The first mistake is he promised very large chunks of equity to everybody, and essentially right away put him in a position where he was a minority owner. Yeah. So as the general, if your business is an army, and if you're the general or the leader, right, you need to be able to make decisions, and you need to have the ownership to back that up. And then also, if you do take capital, you don't want to put yourself, you especially don't want to be a minority owner before you take capital. But if you take capital, you want to hopefully take capital and then still be a majority owner so that you can run your business unilaterally. And structure your cap table where hopefully you're not a minority until that second or third round if you grow. But what was really interesting, so that was one of the mistakes. And then the other mistake was, and this is the funnier part of it, is, he was telling me about all these positions he had. And he starts talking about his CFO and this and that person's getting 10% equity and yada, yada, yada. And I said, you don't have any money. You don't have any clients.
Why do you need a CFO?
Why do you need a CFO, right? And this was like the light bulb went off in his head, and he's like, oh yeah, well, okay, maybe. I said, we have 7-figure revenue. I don't have a dedicated CFO. I mean, to hire a guy internally for that, or a woman, is $250,000 or whatever. Like, you can get it from a fractional perspective, or businesses of our size, they use bookkeepers and accountants.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's interesting, because I do see that a lot, or even in my own I've experienced in the past, kind of a thing. I'm a big big operational person. So you want to go build out this operational system to be able to handle the 1,000 clients we're going to get, even though you don't have the first one yet, or you've only got 5. It's like, okay, you don't need, well, I was talking with actually another interview. It's like, you almost need to build the entire system up together incrementally to say, okay, yes, we've got plans for a longer term operations. We got plans for longer term finance, whatever. We don't necessarily need to implement them all right now. We can build them up as sales come up, as marketing come up, and build this almost like a level playing field across all the different areas of the company, rather than, because at the same time, you ramp up all your sales and marketing, and all of a sudden have this influx of clients, and you don't have any way to fulfill it. You got issues there as well. So it's trying to do that balance, and that's a struggle, but depending on where your expertise is, because we all like pouring into our lane, our area of expertise right there. And hopefully the other areas of the company will come along, right?
Right. Yeah. We to that point, we have typically in the past over-engineered our operations side, and almost always we don't need it to that level. And in a lot of circumstances, we've way overbuilt things that we never use. And so we're doing, I've actually over the last 2 years kind of switched to the philosophy you're describing, which I think is a really good way of looking at it. And that is that it's kind of like, it's almost like this balance. You need in business, you're never going to have a level of you're never going to have an equilibrium. So like you got sales and operations, and sales, is they're going to put a whole lot of people into your, or a whole lot of new opportunities, hopefully, into your business. And now operations has to like work really hard to catch up to be able to handle what sales does. And sales is kind of like, sitting there being like, all right, I'm ready to sell more. And operations is saying, whoa, I can't handle this. And so
Yeah.
it's never, a level playing field.
Yeah. No, it's got, I equate it to like the old metal or even now plastic slinkies kind of a thing where it kind of expands and compresses. But the idea, or the ideal world at least, is that you can minimize those huge fluctuations there. But yeah, that's very true on saying, okay, it's never going to be perfect because there's always going to be, sales and marketing rarely are predictable kind of a thing. There'll be influxes, there'll be spikes and stuff like that. But yeah,
Right.
if you get it too far out of whack, then you cause problems either, because I've seen that in clients both sides, that okay, we grew too fast, we took on way too many clients and couldn't handle it, or conversely, we invested, like you said, and I see it a lot actually in the tech side, because we want to build out all this massive infrastructure, servers and software and all this stuff. It's like, do you really have the need? Do the customers really, are they asking for those features yet? Or did you just think that feature was cool to implement?
Yeah. And then all of a sudden you've lit 100 grand on fire and you don't have anything.
Yeah. Been there, done that before. So
Right.
obviously, like I said before, we're talking about, or we're doing this during the pandemic. Everybody's kind of shut down, working from home, all that kind of fun stuff. You mentioned that the company's based out of Austin, but you've got employees and team members really worldwide. I think you said you even had a group over in European area as well.
Right. Yeah. So we have our main offices in Austin. We have a small office in Charlotte, and then we have our PPC team lead is in Manchester in the UK. He's a Hungarian gentleman, and then we have our four or five AdWords engineers and Facebook engineers based in Hungary, in Budapest.
Okay, so yeah, several places.
And then we have our lead software developers based in Arizona, and we have a small team of software developers there as well. And then we have 2 developers in Austin. So yeah, everything is kind of all over the place.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so we're obviously seeing a lot more of that these days with companies being geographically dispersed. So well, I guess 2 questions. Let me lead this up. So is that the way necessarily that you started out, or did you start out with core in Austin and then we grew out to that point, or how did the diversity there from a geographic standpoint originate?
Yeah, we started in Austin, as a core, and Austin's a great talent pool. There's a major university there, and it's Austin, so
Yeah.
So there's great people there. But even though it's such a great pool, we didn't necessarily always find what we were looking for. And there's a lot of factors with hiring. There's you want to get somebody that's an expert. You want to get people that that the cost of fulfillment using them is within your business model. And so there's considerable factors. One of the things that why we looked to Europe as a place to build a team was the technical expertise is really strong. So in countries like Hungary, with our experience, we found that that math and science are more core to the average person there than maybe they are in the US. And so, and as a, philosophically as an agency, structuring under the idea that we're more engineering focused and marketing focused, we really needed to seek out those people. And what's interesting is, like anybody else, I've done the outsourcing where you try to, you go and you try the cheapest possible, right? And the cheapest possible is usually cheap for a reason, and the results are just not there. Especially as you grow and you try to build a reputation, you can't necessarily rely on those. So we found that, our staff in Europe, it's probably only 20% cheaper, maybe 30% cheaper than a comparable position in the US. But we find the work ethic is equal or stronger, and we find the technical capability is there. And so it's been a really great experience for us, and the quality of people is just remarkable.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what do you find from a challenge perspective or a leadership perspective in dealing with the geographically dispersed, but especially even at that point, you're looking at culturally dispersed as well, or obviously
Right.
time zones, languages, things like that. What are some of the challenges, or how have you addressed some of that from a leadership perspective, dealing with all those different people in different areas?
It can be difficult, and it can cause some really early mornings and some really late nights.
Yeah.
People are always asking me, like, what are you doing up at 3 a.m. responding to an email? And it's like, well, it's a lot easier for me if I can get people when they're either before their day starts or as their day starting, to like get them ready, so that when we all wake up here in the United States, we've got a whole bunch of work done, right?
Yeah.
And so the time zone thing is the biggest challenge, but it also, as I mentioned, there's some really strong benefits from there. If you're working with somebody that's considerably ahead of you, you can get them prepped, and then you wake up and there's all this stuff done. One of the biggest challenges is as an agencies are always guarding their clients, and it's an important thing to do, because you let a wolf into the hen house, and you never know what can happen. And so, they're guarding their clients. They're protective internally of staff, certain staff members talking to clients. They don't want, they're always worried about, you could lose a client or you could lose staff. Right.
Yeah.
And so I have found personally that, if you make somebody's, job or their part of the company meaningful enough, that hopefully you don't have to worry as much, right? So I try to nurture all of our people in a position where they can potentially be client facing, so that the client gets value from them. Like, I'm not an engineer, and a lot of times, an engineer's way of communicating information, it can be a little bit lost, right, to a client. But at the same time, there's tremendous value in what they're saying. So it's important to be able to get those people talking to people. And so from a time zone perspective, that's hard, because, I actually have this situation going on right now. I have a client in LA, and I have, our expert, our lead Facebook expert, a guy by the name of Mickey, who's a phenomenal guy. He is in Hungary. And so, it's literally a 9-hour difference. So it's like, it's got to be her morning and it's got to be his night. Right. And so that's the biggest challenge there. Culturally, there's a little bit of a challenge culturally. There's a little bit of a challenge more on the language side. A lot of, fortunately, English is taught, very heavily over there, but it's generally not their first language. And with that comes issues. But I feel like the benefits outweigh those problems. I know a lot of people that have had tremendous luck working with people in South America, specifically in Costa Rica and Colombia, on the engineering and software development side. The beauty about working there is the time zones are the same.
Yeah.
So if you need client-facing people, or you need people that are working on projects together with US people, that's a great place to look for it. Really on the other side of the world, the time zone thing becomes so crushing that you just can't. If you need anybody that's client-facing, it makes it very difficult for that regard. Yeah, I hope that answers your.
Yeah, it does. And the time zone is definitely an issue, kind of thing I've actually had been on podcasts and had guests that are over in Thailand and stuff like that, Philippines. Is like, okay, you're recording here at 3 a.m. in the morning. Are you really cognizant for this kind of recording here or there? But now I'm curious as to, from even saying here, like you said, that with the Austin base, the Carolina base, and the Arizona base, from a team perspective, how do you unite those people together when they can't go to the water cooler, they can't peek over the cube wall, kind of a thing, and talk to each other? You're technology based, so I'm assuming there's probably some technology tools and some stuff leveraged there. But what do you do from a culture standpoint, just trying to build that team together rather than just having a bunch of disparate contractors just operating out in their own silos?
Right. Well, what we try to do is, obviously, I mean, we use Google Meet for the most part, but Meet or Zoom or these tools are crucial for us to all get together. We have regular meetings. I have a morning meeting with the advertising team. I have 3 days a week. We have a meeting with the web development and web design team. We have meetings with the Amazon team 2 to 3 times a week. So those kind of group meetings are important. The other pieces is I really encourage our staff to talk to each other. If you're working on the same project, get on Zoom and work together, right? If you have questions, especially younger people are really, really opposed to, they don't talk on the phone much. I mean, Zoom has made it so they talk sort of on the phone, but like they don't pick up the phone and talk to people. Oh. And so I'm always telling people, we're communicating on Slack, or we're, texting, or we're emailing, or whatever. And I'm sitting there watching staff spend 30 minutes trying to stuff everything in this long email that somebody on the other side has zero desire to read.
Yep.
And they've got to piece through it. And I'm like, if you'd have just picked the phone up in 2 minutes, you could have gotten through all of that instead of wasting this time. So I encourage people to talk, and by nature, all the staff kind of has become very, they all really like each other. They're all very friendly. We almost have the same kind of environment that you would desire to have in person, remotely. It's not perfect, but everybody seems to really enjoy working with each other, and they get along really well. So,
yeah, and I think it goes a lot to the personality, but still, yeah, I do see a lot of what you're talking about. Hey, why are you doing the long email messages, or even still a lot of the instant message chat kind of stuff like that? It's like you can get a lot more, and I suspect really with the potential language differences, you can get a lot more in just a voice conversation. Just talk to somebody, because it's easily misunderstood without even a language difference there. But once you add the language difference in, probably compound it quite a bit.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So looking more forward with your business, with things going on right now, what does next year look like, or what's your goals even longer term in the future, 5, 10 kind of years with the company here?
Well, it's a good question. So, related to the name of your podcast, we're always looking to scale. And so we have picked, I mean, we as a business, Fancy Awesome has picked a service related business as our core function. We're really good at it. And we have very, very happy clients, and we love it. We love our clients, and we love the work that we do. The problem with a service business, though, is they're notoriously difficult to scale. And they are, because fundamentally, a lot of the work that you're doing is based on an individual's expertise, as opposed to like a SaaS product or, something along those sides. You're building one thing, one module, one tool, and then you're blasting it out in the world, and then you're doing the marketing work to get users to it that hopefully need little to no handholding.
Yeah.
Right. And little to no client agency involvement. Right. And if you can get to that position, that's very desirable, because number one, the margins are a lot higher. And number two, that's a situation where you can have 10,000 users. In an agency like we have, I'm sure there are agencies out there that have 10,000 clients, but we're not one of them. It's very, very difficult to scale this type of business. So our long-term strategies I've told you about, we started the Amazon business. We've, myself and a partner have started, we had a software company where we did a SaaS type product 5-6 years ago. Well, one of the things I'm really working on is focus, right? So what are we really good at? What's the core? What's driving most of our business and what's driving most of our profitability, and how can we focus on that? Number one. And then number two, with all this entrepreneurial energy that I have, where I'm constantly being pulled away from focus, if I am going to do things that are tests or, exploring new opportunities, make sure that they are related to the core, right? Make sure that they make sense to the overall business. So in 2021, we're focusing on more customer acquisition in the e-commerce space. We're looking at more Shopify development work. We're looking at more clients that can use our Amazon management tools and service. And then we are putting a very, very strong foot forward in the Shopify app development world. So the reason I love that area is because it's very much like SaaS. It's you're selling an app. You have the ability to get thousands or tens of thousands of users. Shopify's built a really incredible developer community. We have built tons of Shopify stores. We are extremely familiar with Shopify's architecture and with the APIs and all of these capabilities within their system. And then our development arm of our business is not just web developers. I mean, we have some real software developers that can write real stuff. And so, not that web development isn't real stuff, but I'm saying they're not just building Shopify stores. These are people that can build really exciting stuff. So we're taking some of those resources, and we already have a Shopify app that we are about halfway through development. We expect to be launching it in March in the reoccurring payment space. And we hope to launch that out there. We have a lot of clients that are asking for help in that space. So we already have a baked in pool of users. I mean, it's not a huge pool of users, but it's people that can, as we launch an MVP, they can start using it. They can give us feedback. We can tailor the product around their specific needs. And then also us as developers within the Shopify platform, we understand what people want from a development perspective and from a UX perspective. So I think that we're very well positioned to launch that piece of the business. And then as we get the name fancy out, awesome out there related to apps, and they go to our website, and we're working on a new website right now. Our website's very Amazon focused. We're going to go back to, marketing the whole company, all of our services, just not Amazon. But hopefully they'll see the fancy, awesome apps. They'll see that. They'll say, wow, we offer development services on an hourly basis. We offer design services. We can build the whole site for you from scratch. We can solve any problem. And then we have incredible advertising services and really great, SEO and email marketing services. And so essentially we have this spider web, and we have enough webs out there where we can capture clients from different places, and then it all feeds into the core, and where we make, advertising and web development and web maintenance are the two areas of the business where that's probably our core in terms of size and profitability.
No, it makes sense. And that having that kind of repeatable revenue stream like you're talking about, because if you're doing just individual one-off project work, then that can be hard to scale. But if you've got the app side, especially like you were saying earlier, software as a service kind of stuff that you can build once and sell multiple times, that's where you'll be able to get to it for sure.
Yeah.
So always like coming back on kind of wrap up to say, based upon where you are today, what's your kind of best tip, best strategy to say, hey, if I just knew this 5 years ago, 10 years ago, at the very least, the journey might have been a little bit easier, a little bit smoother. What comes to mind there?
Well, some of it's things that we've chatted about a little bit, but one of the things is when you're a founder of a business, you need to be very, very cautious of how you give out equity, and then also how you vet potential investors. Just about everything that we have done, we've taken a little bit of investment for some projects. We've always returned, really great returns to our investors for these little projects that we did. But for the most part, I've never built a business using outside capital.
Yep.
And so, but when you do use outside capital, there's a lot of, I've seen it from too many people that we've worked with, the pitfalls that can come from that. So, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, you have to really have your guard up, and you really have to understand and be able to see the future and say, if I make this decision now, how is it going to affect me? And equity is probably the thing that, I used to talk loosely about it and say, oh, well, if you do this, we can get you this, and you could be a big owner, and blah, 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 blah. And those things don't do anybody any good, because they, if you're using that to incentivize somebody, you might not be big enough or have enough revenue in order to incentivize them in other ways. Right. And really, as an entrepreneur, you want entrepreneurs on your cap table. It's if people that want to be employees are employees, and that's what they do. They they're very good at what they do, and that's what they have other interests in their life maybe. And so finding partners that have a similar look on the world that you do, being very cautious of how you give out equity, and then just not over-promising in any regard.
It's easy to dream, and I know, especially from the equity side, it's easy to look at and say, hey, free money or upfront money kind of a stuff. But yeah, to your point, it's really, I know it can work, but there are a lot of horror stories out there as to how it didn't work, because to your point, not enough pre-planning, not enough forethought as to, okay, what is this going to mean down the road? What's this going to mean in the future? So yeah, I get that for sure.
The other thing that I think is really important when you start a small business is, when you start any business, is there's always really expensive options to do everything out there, right? And there's always really cheap ways of doing things, and it's a delicate balance. If you personally need services for you to help start the business, you need to develop software, you need to do whatever. Like, you need to find people that are good counselors, right? That can steer you in a good direction. And you need to take whatever resources you have and look at them. That is the lifeblood of the business. And it's really easy to overspend and overcommit and not really, it lends to planning.
Yeah.
You got to look at what resources you do have, and you got to make sure that they're going to work for you for a long time, because, nothing is certain in business.
There is that for sure. Yeah. So, all right. Well, unfortunately, we're running low on time, but if they listener base wants to learn more about you or learn more about the company, where can they find you online these days?
You can go to fancyawesome.com. And there's a form on there. There's a phone number. Feel free to drop us a line. You can find me on LinkedIn, Thomas Howell, or on Facebook. So yeah, by all means, please reach out.
Yep, we'll definitely get all the links in the show notes here for it. So appreciate your time with us and for taking a bit out of your day there.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Building to Scale podcast. If you would like to share your entrepreneurial business growth story, please visit buildingtoscale.com/guest. If you got something out of this interview, would you do both us and our guest a favor and share it on your social media accounts? Don't forget to hit subscribe in your player so that you don't miss any future episodes, and make sure to reach out to Jeff Chastain on any of the major social media networks, or check us out at admentis.com.